I know.
Like retirement rounds. So like, if you have retirement accounts and they're over like 2,000. So like IRAs are cool. But if you do something like
Thank you.
you have like savings account, $1,000. Just right, savings account, like my bank. Yeah, it'd be the same. Asset. Yep. No. Yeah. I know. It's a right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not, it's, yeah. Don't understand, but okay.
Are you still able to turn these in for us? Do that? Oh, that's right.
It is now 6:09 and we are out of closed executive session. At this time, we will reconvene the regular meeting of the Board of Education with the pledge to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Booker.
Here.
Mr. Herrera.
Here.
Mrs. Hauk.
Here.
Ms. Mayville.
Here.
Mrs. Reed Nemec.
Here.
Mrs. Whitcomb.
Here.
Mr. Zickert.
Here.
Are there any items on the agenda any members of the board would like to amend or move?
I had the one under consent agenda, the ESER 3 reallocation.
It'll be in just a second.
Oh,
We'll get
sorry.
to the consent agenda.
See, I never do this.
Anyone else?
I have one question.
Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda of the regular meeting of the Board of Education on April 18th, 2022 as presented?
So moved. Second.
Member Herrera made the motion and Member Zickert seconded the motion to approve the agenda of the regular meeting of the Board of Education on April 18th, 2022 as presented. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Herrera.
Aye.
Mr. Zickert.
Aye.
Mrs. Whitcomb.
Aye.
Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mrs. Hauk.
Aye.
Ms. Mayville.
Aye.
Mrs. Reed Nemec.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. At this time, the board will conduct a public hearing to waive limitations on administrative costs. The district may waive limitation imposed for administrative costs if administrative expenditures per pupil are in or below the 25th percentile for districts of the same type. This waiver must be renewed annually per section 17-1.5 of Illinois School Code and read as follows. Whereas section 17-1.5 of the school code states, quote, school districts with administrative expenditures per pupil in the 25th percentile and below for all districts of the same type as defined by the State Board of Education may waive the limitation imposed under this section for any year with the affirmative vote of at least 2/3 of the members of the school board of the district, end quote. And whereas the administrative expenditures per pupil of this district are in or below the 25th percentile for districts of the same type for the school year 2019 to 2020, the most recent year for which such data is available. Whereas a public hearing was held on this resolution on April 18th, 2022 at 1201 Fifth Avenue, Bellevue, Illinois, 61008. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education waives the limitation on administrative costs for the school year 2020 to 2021 is authorized by section 17-1.5 of the school code, and the superintendent is directed to notify the State Board of Education within 45 days of the date of this action. If anyone would like to speak to the board in regards to waiving limitations on administrative costs, please come to the podium at this time and state your name for the record with your comment. Hearing none, this will conclude our public hearing to waive limitations on administrative costs. Next, I'd like to introduce and welcome Dr. Shub to our district. The board is pleased to introduce Dr. Shub, who is joining us tonight as District 100's next superintendent. Dr. Shub will officially take over as District 100 superintendent on July 1st, but will be attending regular board meetings until that time, in addition to making some trips to visit our area to assist with the transition to our district. Watch for more information to come on an official meet and greet in June that will be open to staff, parents, and the community. I would also like to share a little bit about Dr. Shug and then give her a chance to address the board and the community that are here. Cassandra Shub has proudly served in the role of an educator in the states of Wisconsin and Illinois for over 25 years. For the past 11 years, Dr. Shug has served as a superintendent of schools in the Watertown Unified School District. Prior to her role in Watertown, she held a number of administrative roles, including principal at West Bend East High School in West Bend, Wisconsin, associate principal at Nathan Hale High School in West Dallas, West Milwaukee School District, and director of academics and assessment in West Dallas, West Milwaukee School District. Prior to her roles in administration, Dr. Shub served as a teacher in the West Dallas, West Milwaukee School District and in McHenry School District in McHenry, Illinois. Under her leadership, the Watertown Unified School District, known as WUSD, has added pre-K/9, soon to be pre-K/12 dual language program, has implemented a K-12 STEM programming, has implemented a project-based learning high school, an agricultural pathways school, and a K-12 virtual learning academy. Additionally, the WUSD has seen significantly improved graduation rates. On the most recent state report card, Watertown outperformed all benchmark comparable districts as identified by UW-Madison. 88% of schools in the WUSD exceed or significantly exceed expectations on the state report card. The WUSD high schools have been recognized by U.S. News and World Report, and the WUSD is home to Title I schools of recognition. Dr. Shug is proud of the work that she has helped to lead in Watertown, and she is excited to bring her skills to District 100. She looks forward to working together with students, staff, and community in Belvedere to achieve the Belvedere mission of empowering all learners to achieve personal excellence. I'd like you all to welcome Dr. Cassandra Shug to the podium.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for that very nice introduction and reading of that bio. It does. I also know that we have some outstanding programs that are here and need to be continued, and I will certainly put my support and resources behind those programs to make sure they continue to be successful, including the very successful dual language program. As a new person to Belvedere and a new person to the community, my second commitment to you is communication. I will be spending the next weeks and months really working and striving to build strong relationships with staff, with community, with students, with parents, with families. From those relationships, I look to really understand, contribute, and serve the community well. And I will be communicating regularly, frequently, transparently with all of our stakeholder groups to build a real sense of trust and integrity here in our community and within our school district. And my final commitment to you this evening would be a commitment to excellence. The other thing I've heard as I've met with all the various staff is the amount of pride that exists in the district that we have right now, and also a true desire to do better, to continue to strive for that excellence, to be a destination district for staff, and a destination district for families. I will do everything I can to bring the skills that I already have and will continue to develop to make sure that we do in fact achieve that vision for excellence and to become that destination district locally, regionally, and within the state of Illinois. I can't wait to get started. So thank you so much, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Shub. Next on the agenda are student council reports. Neither of the schools were able to send a representative this evening, but you can find the reports submitted on Word docs for your review. At this time, members of the public and employees of District 100 who submitted comments via email will be read. We do not currently have any submitted via email, and those attending in person may make public comments. A reminder that this is a professional business meeting, and as such, all attendees from board members to speakers to public attendees are reminded to conduct themselves professionally and refrain from the use of profanity, unprofessional language, and/or verbal or personally directed attacks. Verbal comments from the public are restricted to those being delivered during an individual's public comment as indicated on the board agenda. Unsolicited verbal comments, outbursts, and profanity and physical disruptions directed at members of the Board of Education, the superintendent, administrators, and/or audience members are not allowed and will not be tolerated. If such an occurrence occurs, a verbal warning will be given by the president, and if an individual is identified as a continued disruption during the board meeting, the individual or individuals will be asked to leave the meeting. If necessary, the president or superintendent may request the assistance of law enforcement to escort the individual or individuals from the building. Per board policy 2230, the board must allow a minimum of 30 minutes of public comment and a 20-minute minimum total length of time for any one subject. If we reach 30 minutes on any given topic this evening, I may request an end of public comment. In order to give the maximum number of people an opportunity to speak, please try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have anyone wishing to speak? If you would like to approach the podium and give your name, please, sir.
My name is Joe McKee. I don't know if the board members themselves have seen what has been going on through the what's happening over here Facebook page. I had made a post a few weeks ago commenting about the bullying that's going on in schools. My children have been receiving bullying this year. And from the moment that I put that post out, within an hour, I had well over 50 comments. Within a 24-hour time frame, I had over 200 comments, not just from children in my school, but from parents throughout the entire district. Also, I've talked with staff members. I've had even students reply to my post. My main concern is, as a parent and as a former student, what can we do as the board, even myself, to try to be better, to give our the children a better learning environment? Like I said, I've spoken with other parents, and it's gotten to the fact where I've talked to some parents that have pulled their kids out of the school because of bullying issues. And my children are young right now, and they love going to school. They love getting up every morning, getting dressed, and going to their school. I don't want to take that away from them. So I want to know if I can get some type of help from the board to address these issues that are going on and make it a better environment for not just my kids, but all the children of this district.
Mr. McKee, it typically is not something that the board responds immediately to a public comment, but I would ask if you would meet with Dr. Johnson. If you could meet with her just briefly and she could get some information from you, and Dr. Weisman could follow up for the board with that. Would you
If
be
that's
willing
where
to?
we can start, that'd be great, because like I said, the main focus is on children. I want every child, my goal is to have every child have a learning experience where they don't have to worry about going to school and somebody picking up. If they can go through and have a learning experience that gives them the proper education and the fulfillment of actually going to school or classroom and getting all the learning they can. Because bullying, all that does is it takes that experience away from the child. And you never know, you could say the wrong thing to a child and it can traumatize them immensely. I've seen it, I've heard it, and I don't want my kids or any child to go through that. So if this is gonna be the initial step to this, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else wish to address the board at this time? Okay, seeing no other comments, at this time, public comment will be closed. Moving on, next we have our Board of Committee report, or excuse me, our Board of Education Committee reports. Business Services Committee met on April 5th. Mr. Booker, do you have anything you would like to add or highlight in your committee notes?
I think everything we talked about is already somewhere on this agenda, so no.
Mrs. Howe, anything to add?
You said it all.
Okay, does anyone have any general questions for Mr. Booker or the Business Services Committee members? Okay, next will be Curriculum Committee meeting. The Curriculum Committee met on April 12th. Mr. Zickert, do you have anything you would like to add or highlight from Curriculum Committee report?
No, I think most of it's self-explanatory. Unfortunately, the day we had the meeting and the next day was the day it was due, made it a quick turnaround. So I apologize for any mistakes in there because I was hurrying and I'm not the best typist in the world. So if there's any errors, I do apologize. The math improvement process update, that was a lengthy discussion. We went over a lot of things that I stated in there. To do a language review was I think another one that was relatively time consuming in a good way too. But I think one of the things they talked about, one of the things that was discussed among the group was, as we look to expand the program, looking to expand the program to where everybody from around town gets equal access to it, whether we have another site, whether we bus, whether we do whatever, to look at that in the future. The other ones were Success Maker. The fact that we're going to continue to utilize that and chart student growth on that. Mr. Budenoff talked about ATC utilization, talked about there being AP testing going on there. Really proud of the 60 kids in welding that they're going to start there next year and think that was a really good thing. And then the last one was academic contracts, which had to do with reoccurring one. Well, not all reoccurring. First one was an EMT contract as a cooperative agreement between Mercy Health and RBC. The Running Start agreement, which we've done for quite a few years. Dual credit's been another reoccurring one. And then the quarantine tutors, where because we have an excess of quarantine tutors now for the demand, to talk about having 2 out of the 3 be rotating subs, floating subs, or working in a building in subs instead of waiting for kids that need work as a quarantine tutor. And the committee thought that was a wonderful idea. So that was a summary.
Anyone else have any other questions or comments? Next on the agenda are consent agenda items. Are there any items on the consent agenda any members of the board would like to take out for separate consideration? This would be Mr. Booker.
I would like to take the ESER 3 reallocation out.
Member Booker requested to have item number 11, ESER 3 reallocation, removed. Do I have a motion to approve all consent agenda items not requested to be pulled? That would be consent agenda items 1 through 10, 12, and 13.
So moved.
Second.
Member Whitcomb made the motion and member Zickert seconded the motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 10, 12, and 13. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Whitcomb.
Aye.
Mr. Zickert.
Aye.
Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Herrera.
Aye.
Mrs. Hauk.
Aye.
Ms. Mayville.
Aye.
Mrs. Reed Nemec.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Do I have a motion to approve consent agenda item number 11, ESER 3 reallocation as presented?
Can I ask a question on this now? I just wanted to ask, a number of the items on the reallocation, I thought we already put through for approval previously, like the air quality and the bandwidth. And by doing this, I read that now it would have to go through a grant rewriting. Is that correct? So we'd have to wait on it?
So we have to amend the grant, but I don't know that we formally approved here yet, the bandwidth and the air quality.
I think we talked about it at the board level.
Okay, because I know that went through business services a while ago, didn't it? And,
There was some discussion on it, yeah.
okay,
As to that now, Dr. Johnson, in regards to what we are approving under consent agenda would be the ability to amend the grant to these 4 areas, correct?
Yes, what is, actually, there's a few more on the second page. Yeah. So,
will that delay our implementation of some of these?
so from last fall, I should say late summer, early fall, bandwidth and the air quality were not into ESER 3. That was at that time when we did more of the student facing
Okay,
pieces. And so this is the first opportunity to write this in.
okay. I thought we'd gone through it through business services months ago
We did talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we ever
to
brought
put
it
it in.
to the board
Okay,
to approve it though.
There was discussion regarding whether or not the board was on board with the changes that came. And this is the actual amendment to the grant itself. So money because money cannot be paid out for anything unless it's specifically stated in the grant. So in order to be specifically stated in the grant, it would have to be revised within the grant. And it takes 30 to 60 days to be revised in the grant.
Revise it pretty quickly. It's just the approval process with the state.
okay.
So the description of the change or the description of the reallocation item, more accurately stated, will these be, are these ideas or are we tying ourselves to these being the exact way that the money would be utilized or implemented?
So this would be how it would be utilized. So went through the March curriculum committee meeting with a general brainstorm. We did that, yeah, in March,
did.
and then it came to the March board meeting just as a discussion. So at this point, this would be what would be written into the grant. And then I did put a couple documents down below of last month's. This is a reference.
And the last time we did the grant in August, we had like specific ways we were going to measure, but there's certain things that necessarily we can't measure progress monitoring on like an HVAC system, correct?
It would be a
I appreciate that looking ahead, it's already been stated that we'll be exploring potential plans and opportunities for next year, and hear about those significantly sooner than this year with the renewal. I think that's I'm sure a very big task, and I appreciate everyone who's going to take it on, but a valuable venture at this point.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Whitcomb.
Aye.
Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Ms. Mayville.
Aye.
Mr. Herrera.
Aye.
Mrs. Hauk.
Aye.
Mr. Zickert.
Aye.
Mrs. Reed Nemick.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Do I have a motion regarding the organic life renewal?
Motion to approve organic life renewal.
Second.
Member Zickert made the motion and member Herrera seconded the motion to approve the organic life renewal. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Zickert.
Aye.
Mr. Herrera.
Aye.
Mrs. Hauk.
Aye.
Ms. Mayville.
Aye.
Mrs. Whitcomb.
Aye.
Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mrs. Reed Nemick.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to board discussion. The first item under board discussion is the Care Solace contract. Care Solace is something that we have been utilizing since December, Dr. Johnson?
December was when we kind of did the straw poll here. So in January, we did training for staff, and then early February, we communicated to families and launched the program.
Do we have any more input as to, and I knew that you said you might not know, what the reason behind the $1.65 per pupil increase in pricing from the 6-month term to the 2? I mean, normally, the longer your term, the better the pricing model. But for us, it seems to be that we took a 6-month agreement and we got a price that now on a 2-year is $1.65 a student more.
Yes, no, Joanna and I are going to keep it at.
I said, just from our initial thought process is that it's a longer term, so they'll be offering more services for a longer period, so they give you a discounted rate, but we want to, again, check with the reps there, but that is my initial thought, is that they knew they'd only be providing per student for 3 to 4 months, and now they're going to be providing services for a full year that would incorporate more services provided. But we'll do it.
Yes. We'll get back.
Is there room, I mean, I'm just asking, right? Because, is there room to negotiate the price? I mean, it just seems like,
Definitely ask.
I mean, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take,
Mhm.
right? Might as well ask. I mean, it just, that's a pretty healthy increase, $1.65 per pupil over the, and normally what you see is on a shorter term contract, you almost see the opposite of that. If you want to buy in on a short side, you're going to pay more for that because you're not making a long-term commitment. And now what they're presenting is the presentation of a longer term commitment, that being 2 years, and the price is, going up by $1.65, which the previous price was $2.05. So we're at like 80% more price per pupil on a longer contract. So, yeah.
So we're definitely going to reach out to the rest, and we'll be able to get back to and ask for negotiation on that one.
Is there anything that they will have to redo, like regarding the onboarding training, or since we've already had that, it's been fairly.
Kind of a postcard is electronically given to them, just to let them know that they could also utilize the service on their own, especially as the kids got older. And so there would be some effort probably on my part in the fall. For them, not so much, because most of what they have provided me, I'm able to do.
Social workers as well. There was a lot of discussion surrounding social workers needing somewhere to send people. An additional resource because they couldn't manage it all.
Yes, and high school counselors as well. Yes, that was some of the initial feedback was the time that it takes to try to help families get all of this set up and navigate. I believe after the house fire tragedy, that a number of people, again, had kind of mentioned that it was available. Other than that, there hasn't been significant feedback, but I also haven't.
Could we request it? Just especially from those employee groups that would have been the referring sources to see how many of them are finding it, to be an effective partnership for, families. And I mean, again, we're not looking for anyone's private information, obviously, but,
Definitely.
yeah. Yeah, and not for themselves personally, obviously, but for students or families that they're.
This is structures, place that I wanted to put in place with our facilities department. Our facilities crew are doing a fantastic job keeping our buildings clean, keeping things going. I continue to say every meeting how impressed I am looking at our buildings. My concerns are more aligned with the strategic vision and what our facility needs and capacity. Side of assessment and developing a 10-year capital plan for what we need to do with buildings and our facilities, working with the new superintendent, myself. This, and I would like failing and having to replace them as we go. Getting a 10-year plan in place would give us a document to kind of guide our decisions as we start looking at that facilities long-term planning committee, getting ideas from them, but also looking at what we're doing with someone in mind to also be that face person that builds those relationships with the city, with the townships, with the county, to really see how we can partner together to make the most of our facilities and our use and really make it into a community group. So I did do the costing for the position, and with the salary and the benefits, I always take worst case scenario of what my thoughts are, and presuming all benefits at the highest cost, I would not anticipate that this position would cost more than $152,000. And that would be, like I said, including maximum benefits. If that person did not take it or they came in at a lower salary, I was putting it where I would put the max of my startings for what I'm looking for. So this is something that I would like the board to take into consideration so that maybe next month we can come back and have a vote on this.
On the job description or the org chart that you're, or both?
Both.
Both, got it.
I put the org chart kind of together just for a picture, so I guess if you approve the position, it kind of flows into
Flows into
that.
the org chart, yeah.
So
You said
I don't
yes to
know that
this.
I
Buy one, get one free.
Usually a board doesn't approve an org chart. I just
Yeah.
wanted to kind of give
Got it.
that
Nice chart.
mindset of what I was looking for.
Well, helps describe really what the business operations is, right? Your department, what you're overseeing, all the operations that are overseen within your group. So helps visualize it and helps understand kind of where that facilities person would be coming through. So yeah.
I guess I'd like to just a little more information, how that looks compared to what we have now. You know, we have the two Garys now that do that. Before the two Garys, we had Art and Gary, or the two Larrys,
I
I'm
was gonna
sorry.
say, you have
The two
Larry.
Larrys, I'm sorry. We have the two Larrys now. Before then, we had Art and Gary. That's where I got the Gary from, I'm sorry.
Right.
That was restructured a different way. It doesn't mean one way is right or wrong. It's just that I'm just curious how this would dovetail into what they're doing now, added on, part of what they're doing, restructuring it just in general.
Yeah, I think it allows them to continue to do what they are doing extremely well at this point. Like I said, our buildings look great and they're able to manage it and keep on top of things as they're going. This position will really be that leader in where our vision's going. You know, I know the district, we're looking at our own strategic plan. We have to look at our facility needs and capacities, but it isn't just how we're utilizing our spaces. It's really looking at what condition our spaces are. We have buildings that we're not occupying that we need to look at what we're doing with those buildings, and are we going to continue to be landlords, or do we have property that we need to keep and redevelop and do some renovations? There's a lot of work in that. That 10-year plan isn't going to be developed in a year, and it's going to be a revolving. You know, we still have reactive things as we continue to build out. So I'm looking really for someone to build those partnerships so that we can team up with the community, get input from them, and really be out there making that difference that I just personally don't have time for, and I don't have the Gary, now we got me going.
Sorry.
The Larrys and Jim don't have that capacity at this point because they're managing that day-to-day opportunity.
So this is something that's going pretty much by the wayside right now. It's not necessarily like a little bit coming out of this person's job description, a little bit coming out of this person's job description and this person's job description to create it. It's more, this is something that isn't really in existence right now.
The long-term planning has not been happening. There's a spreadsheet with about 10 items on it that kind of rotates every year that you were getting as a capital list of projects. And those are pretty much pretty reactionary. What we know needs to be fixed now. So I think looking at it holistically from that view, we're going to know what we need to fix now. We're not going to get out of the reactionary, but maybe we can start getting things that need attention. We had the wind recently take off part of the roof at Meehan. So we had an $18,000 estimate come in today to say, okay, now we've got to re-glue and adhere the roof down on Meehan over where the side flaps came through. So being able to have someone that can go out and really look at those things and really pay attention to those details and building the plan, I think it's important.
See around corners a little further ahead.
Huh?
To see around corners a little further ahead.
Absolutely.
Is this something that can be discussed again, like with some of the information that was requested at business services in May? Hey, anybody else have any other discussion? Okay, moving on to senior Chromebooks. Mr. Booker and Mrs. Armstrong, this was something that was discussed at business services.
Correct.
Okay, could you give a little bit of background possibly?
Basically, our Chromebooks, when seniors become seniors, are at the end of life. And it was, I don't know if someone asked us how the conversation started, but could a senior just buy his Chromebook? And the value of it is pretty much depleted to almost nothing anyway. And we thought it would be a good idea, and we had asked about the parts that we would reuse to repair and things, and they said actually most of that happens before they're a senior anyway. And could this be offered? And we thought it was a good possible thing to do if we could discuss it. We don't know what's all involved in that too, because I know it's come up selling some property to students. There's things that deal with that as well, right?
Right, and so they would be potentially getting to end of life, usually their end of life is 5 years. So, I mean, it's definitely something we could explore.
I would agree. For me, it'd be easier if it was reoccurring than it would be if it's not reoccurring.
Right.
I mean, I think that'd just be, for me, that would be an easier decision.
And it's revenue for us if we sell them to them. It would cost us nothing if I'm just saying, if we made them available to, I mean, this is unfound money, right? Unplanned money. What would we do with the $7,800? Buy more Chromebooks? Yeah, buy
Right,
more
go into
Chromebooks.
the
Yep,
tech
it goes
fund.
into the escrow account.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, I certainly wouldn't be opposed to it. long as we could. I understand we can't make a 20-year for boards that are seated for set periods of time, but, we're not thinking, gosh, if we don't sell them, we can't buy new Chromebooks next year. We're not in that position. We would continue to support buying the new technology through budgetary expenditures. So, yeah, I would have no opposition to requiring no money for them and allowing them to.
Quick question, I don't know who has the answer to this, right? Because by the time they're seniors and they're graduating, typically, if they're gonna graduate and get their diploma, they have to pay all their fees. But whatever was due the entire time they were in District 100, correct? Be able to
In
graduate
theory.
and get their,
It's not.
I don't think they
correct.
have, I don't think we
They
can
we
withhold
cannot hold a
diplomas.
Yeah, it
diploma
does,
if
yeah.
they don't
We
pay their
tell
fees.
people that.
We encourage
legally
it, but
Okay.
it doesn't always happen.
But been on
but
the,
we can hold the Chromebook in this case,
Yeah,
right?
you might be able to hold the Chromebook.
We might be able to hold the Chromebook.
But those are
on
the
it.
kids who probably really need.
Can't afford it, yeah.
No.
Could- Right
exactly.
there.
In the bottom line is, say a kid, once his Chromebook breaks, he gets a new one. The one we would give him would be one of the expiring ones that maybe someone didn't take or something. I mean, all those details would have to be written out, but it
Yeah.
seems pretty doable, right?
Yeah, and time would just give the kids.
Yep.
So maybe business services could discuss how to make that possible.
Yeah.
Are we all in agreement would be okay with just giving them
Yes.
them
It's
and
really
not
important.
having to
I'm okay
bill
with that
them
too.
and,
Yeah.
yeah, with that, we're all good on that? Okay.
I will bring it back after having a conversation with Tyler, just so I know the longevity side of it. I want to make sure,
Right.
like I said, it was just asked. I wanted to make sure that I have that.
And any details we maybe think about.
Well, and if there is staff cost, so if there is staff expenditure in time to, there may be a certain amount of time for them to unblock certain things or remove certain
Well, that's what I was
accesses or
wondering. Do we have to
permissions.
wipe them? Do we,
Right.
do we still have to bring
If
them in
there's
and do
if there's
anything?
let's just say it was gonna be,
That's
I'm
what we
just
need to know.
speculating. It's gonna cost, equivalent out to
It's just so they're not
$5 a kid for staff time
cost.
to do all the work to scrub them or whatever. Okay, well then, I think we can probably afford that as a district. If they came back and said, well, technically, you were gonna charge them 25, but we're really gonna be spending 40 in staff time, then, that might be the only other, the other thing is, do we build in holding an open hand, both options? Gifting them to them if the staff allocation of time to do all the work to, uninstall or wipe clean or whatever
That's something we need to know.
isn't cost prohibitive.
Right.
Then give them to them.
I'll bring a full proposal
Hmm?
and all the cost implications.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And depending on how long we could sustain it, possibly working something, and this is not precedential, like it's,
Yeah.
we can do it until we can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Upcoming contracts, renewals and reports, just linked on the agenda are contracts to be looking at that will be coming to the board in coming months for approval. Moving on to administrative reports, superintendent comments. I'm going to hand this over to Dr. Ady, who's filling in for Dr. Wiesman this evening.
Okay, Dr. Wiesman just wanted me to mention a couple things. First off, student registration is underway and going well. The next support session at the community center is from 4 to 7 this Wednesday night. Also wanted to mention that the reason for the switch from June 20th to June 21st for the board meeting in June is due to the new Juneteenth holiday. So the meeting in June will be on Tuesday. Only other thing that I wanted to mention in regard to the ESER 3 report, it was recommended to curriculum committee to downsize our quarantine tutors. We've had 3 quarantine tutors that have for the elementary students. And because of the dwindling numbers in quarantines, which is a good thing, there's not the need for that where it was before. So we have 1 quarantine tutor now, starting this week, that will be working with all the elementary grades. And we'll continue to monitor that on a weekly basis to determine if that's needed next week, the week after, and so on. And then I offered to the other 2 quarantine tutors a chance to become permanent subs. One, due to life circumstances beyond her control, is not able to do that, but she she wants us to keep her in mind for future subbing. The other one is able to sub 3 days a week. And so we took a look at our highest need schools where the fill rates are the lowest. And she will start at one of those schools and work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for us. That's all I have.
Can we ask a question about anything under L at this point?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So on the Belvedere Clinic social worker that we have yet to,
This is under monthly.
yes,
average
yeah,
report.
sorry, number 4, right, monthly
Mhm.
answer. I'm just wanting to revisit, have they stayed the payment of any money, given that that position has yet to date, it hasn't even had any candidates yet. We haven't started having to pay them correctly for a position we haven't even, or they haven't even been able to fill.
I would have to ask, this update I got from Dr. Weisman. Touch base, so what I can do since he's unable to be here tonight is ask him as to
Okay.
where we're at with that. And have him, I know once Dr. Brown had left. That's been the one touch base with them.
And I mean, I get it, hiring's hard everywhere, right? Positions are hard to fill. But, you know, I'd also hope that we have a pause button on expenses or costs associated with a contract for services we cannot offer. I mean, and for the foreseeable future are not going to be able to offer. Even once they hire someone, they're gonna have to onboard that person in their system. They're gonna have to then dispatch them to that location. It's gonna then have to be communicated that that position has been filled and someone is now available. So we're probably still looking at, you know, post-hire, a 30, 45, maybe even 60-day window. By then, we're gonna be some 5 to 6 months into a contract. I'd just like to think we weren't actually paying money for, you know, position that isn't filled.
Right.
And for which we can't offer our staff and or their families any services.
So I will back to you on that one.
In regards to our summer school options or availabilities for the high school will only be meeting first session.
Yes, and so that has to do with our state reporting. So our freshmen on track and our graduation rate data is due over the summer months. And so we learned that last year. So we need them to finish their programming in June. So we have accurate data for the state. That comes out in our school accountability reports in October. They get updated every year. Freshmen on track and graduation rate are like massive indicators for the schools on their report cards. And so we had to push it all to June.
So there's only credit recovery available at the high school level, not like the individual, like interest-based sessions like there were last year.
Correct. Yep, we didn't have enough interest last year, and so we moved it to credit proficiency recovery at the high school this year.
And because we have to report it out by the end of June, we have to offer it. They can't, so if they were, if we made it available in that second block, that July block, none of that credit, they couldn't get credit for those credits. Is that what you're saying?
The state collects all of our data, and our state, we wouldn't be able to show that those students were either on track or graduated for the state reporting. So percentage of students that are on track, percentage of students that have graduated. The state has a deadline, and at that point.
For this year.
But
Could we not get ahead of improving the rate for the following year if we also offered it in the July session?
They'd still be behind.
It's
Like,
every-
No, I understand. They'd still, right, so maybe I don't. Maybe say it again. Maybe I'm not understanding it.
So they would just be catching up for the prior year. The reporting would have almost a year lag if we didn't get done in June.
Right,
The
but that's-
accuracy of the.
But the
report.
reality
That's the
part,
reporting,
But
the
the
reality
student,
is
yeah,
the
that's what I was
student
talking about.
itself, I think. is what
But that's
you're
what,
talking
yeah,
about. The
maybe I
student
wasn't saying it.
Yeah, the
themselves
student itself
forget
doesn't matter.
For the students, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If
State
we have,
reporting.
if we have enough students that are in need of credit recovery, and I'm not saying I don't care about the numbers, because we have to care about the numbers, right? We want those to matter and we have to, be cognizant of all of that. But if the reality is that students need those services in second session to continue toward recovery of learning loss and closure of learning gap for the improvement of their following school year, in this case, 22-23, I guess I'm not understanding why we wouldn't still offer that second session.
So we were able to also lengthen the first session. So the first session is not a half day for high school. So we tried to take the same amount of time and put it in 3 weeks in June so that we could get the students where they're at. So high school is 8 to 2:45 instead of 8 to noon.
Okay,
So it's
Okay.
gonna compress.
so you think you're gonna manage double the amount of stuff, maybe, if you will? I mean, because you have a longer day, okay.
Yeah, I think that's something we need to look at for next year. I know this year's is done deal, but next year I think we need to look at it. I realize it's not gonna happen in state reporting. I get that part. But if a kid can still make up more in algebra 1, whether it gets reported now or whether it gets reported, especially if they're a freshman, sophomore, or junior, it really doesn't matter. I mean, catching up is catching up.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it gets reported or not, I'm more interested in them finishing and what they can do to finish than I am about how it looks, at least in this instance, and how it looks on a state report.
Is it easier to staff the 3 weeks full day than it is half day? Like, are there any staffing?
Well, that was some of the feedback was between students and staff was the ability to do it in the 3 weeks as opposed to 6 weeks.
Spreading it out.
Yeah, that's more interesting.
It was quite lengthy last summer. By the time we rolled into June, there was less students and then less interest in coming day after day after day.
How many kids came in the 2 units last year of credit recovery? Do we have that information?
Yeah.
And was that markedly down in the second half?
I think that was total.
Yeah, I would have to go back and look at attendance rates.
And you're saying, if I was understanding what Mr. Zickert said, there's no way to offer the second session this year regardless of, we can't offer the second session regardless.
Yeah, I mean, we started planning in January, we've hired staff and they're expected.
Okay. So I apologize. I apologize if I missed that was, that's on me, that I guess I didn't see that in the planning. So I'm sorry that's on me but I agree with Mr. Zickert that I would want to remedy that next year, that regardless of where it reports out, the student outcome is improved if they buy in, they participate, they stay enrolled. And, if we can offer it long day first session, shorter day second set, I mean, I don't know, but I'd like to see the conversation happen again. So I apologize if I missed the fact that has been shown to us previously and I didn't ask the question. That's on me.
I think it'll be interesting to see the number of credits recovered this year, in the June session compared to last year. It would be interesting to see, is that comparable?
Yeah, maybe the kids just want the 3 weeks, long days.
Some of them do for their summer jobs, that seem to be.
I would like to. I can do 3 weeks, 6 hours, I'm in, I'm out. Not, but exit survey. Hopefully, we'll get whole covered. A whole different group. So then my question is the same as it was last year, although asking it much sooner, so I'm hoping that we already know the answer. The programming available through the Y and the Belvedere Park District, that's going to be offering the K-8 students that programming at no cost. Have we included discussions with and secured permission for that same program to be available to those children in special needs program through Camp Horizon? Awesome. I thought K-8, no, because obviously those kids are not K-8. Okay.
Yeah, they, Camp Horizon is through, Park and Y. I'm sorry,
Park
I always
District.
They're the
forget
Park
if it's
District.
Park
Park
and Y,
District.
but, have they been on all of the?
Camp Horizon.
community? Yes.
And so last year's material that went out did not include that offering. It wasn't included any of the materials. Will it be this year that Camp Horizon will be available?
So we are doing this differently this year. They have done their own advertising. So for both parties, they have been doing their own registration. So they will do their registration and then they will, for those 6 weeks. So for 6 weeks, ours in the morning. And then they will bill us for just 100.
And is there a per day or per camp program maximum, or are we, because Camp Horizon costs more, having had children in the program, having, knowing lots of families who do, is there a per day limit or a per program limit?
What we have stated is our limitation is that it's the 6 weeks that we run
Okay.
summer school.
Got it, okay. So regardless of the disparity or the additional cost in whatever program they choose, maybe for the littler ones, maybe that's a little bit more expensive too, okay. And they're responsible for advertising and communicating that would be at no cost for those 6 weeks of registration.
Yes. And it was easier on them either. This was a mutual agreement that it was easier than us trying to organize for them, which is kind of what our attempt was last year. It was a best made attempt that we realized that they probably should.
Yeah, so they'll register separately. Are we advertising in any of our materials that the Y program is available this year, again, at no
So
expense?
This
Or
actually is an
Park District,
example
et
of
cetera.
what has gone out to families. This one is a most recent. We did lengthier updates and we're trying to do at least once a month a more detailed update like this one. So here you can see in the bullet where it talks about offering afternoon camps, no cost. Registration is available through the Y and the Park District.
Yeah, so I guess that's what led me to my question, because at nowhere in that bullet point does it mention Camp Horizon or students participating in extended school year. So.
Yeah, so extended school year is a little bit further down, but the Park District is working all together on their registration. It's my understanding, but I can double check.
Yeah, it just would be really important to me that we make, if it can be made available, if the Park District is going to make it available, that we be in companionship with them, advertising to those students as well, or families, in our materials that is going to be available to them for that 6 week period at no cost.
Another discussion or questions under administration reports? Following are upcoming district events. Dr. Ady already indicated some. Student registration is open from April 20th, 4 to 7 p.m. at the community building for in-person registration. Facilities and long-range planning committee meeting next is April 27th. Business services committee meeting next is May 3rd. Student registration on May 3rd. 4 to 7 at the community building for in-person registration for those not wishing to use the online registration. Curriculum committee meeting is May 11th. The next regular board meeting is May 16th. And high school graduation. The senior, I know. Belvedere High School graduation will be May 21st at 5 p.m. Belvedere North High School graduation will be May 22nd at 5 p.m. Both of those are occurring at their individual schools. Last day of school is June 2nd. And as we've already recognized with Dr. Ady's comments, the regular meeting in June of the Board of Education will be June 21st, not June 20th, and that's in honor of the June holiday.
I just had one real quick question on the FOIA log. I tried clicking on that. It told me I needed permission to get in. So I put in the thing, emailed whoever I was supposed to say, why do I have to need, why is it necessary to, but I haven't heard anything back on that. And traditionally, the FOIA log wasn't something